Alright kids, are you ready for a real bedtime adventure? This story will take you to a magical land called Wonderland, a place which is truly like nowhere else. Have you ever met a talking animal or seen a cheeky Cheshire cat who just can't stop grinning? What about a white rabbit always running around, forever late for something important? You might even find yourself at a fun tea time with the silly and odd Mad Hatter, or partaking in a crazy, mixed-up game of croquet with the very bossy Queen of Hearts. Wonderland is a realm where every day is an explosion of fun, surprises, and mind-boggling wonders. But every grand adventure has a humble beginning. So, let's dive in right from the start, where it all began with a little girl called Alice. Alice was a bright and curious girl who lived in a big house with a beautiful garden near a shimmering river. She had golden hair that shone like honey in the sunlight and sparkly blue eyes filled with wonder. Her favorite place to play was her garden, with flowers as colorful as a rainbow. One beautiful day, while she was sitting by the river, she saw something very strange. A fluffy white rabbit with twinkling pink eyes, wearing a little red waistcoat, dashed by her. This wasn't just an ordinary rabbit, for he looked at a shiny golden pocket watch and said, "Oh dear, I'm late," and scurried off. Alice had never seen a talking rabbit before, especially one that wore a waistcoat and carried a pocket watch. Filled with curiosity, she followed the rabbit, hopping, skipping, and running behind him. The rabbit dived into a large rabbit hole under a green hedge, and Alice, eager not to lose sight of him, followed right behind. Alice tumbled and slid down through a very deep tunnel, like a slide in a playground. She landed with a small plop at the end of the tunnel. Before her was a long hallway with many little doors on both sides. Alice found a shiny golden key on a glass table. There was a small door about the height of her teddy bear. She tried the key, and it fit perfectly. As she opened the door, she saw a beautiful garden full of bright flowers and butterflies. But Alice was too big to go through the door. Then, she noticed a small bottle that said, "Drink me." Alice, thinking it might help, took a sip. Suddenly, she began to shrink until she was no bigger than a doll. However, now the key was on the table, and it was too high for her to reach. Next to the bottle, there was a tiny cake with the words "Eat me." Hoping it might make her grow, she ate a piece. And just like a balloon, she grew tall enough to grab the key. But now, she was again too big for the door. After a few tries, Alice figured out just the right amount to drink and eat. She was just the right size to pass through the little door with the golden key. She stepped into the magical garden, her heart fluttering with excitement. In this wonderful garden, Alice met all kinds of funny and odd characters. There was a caterpillar sitting on a big mushroom, puffing on a strange pipe, a Cheshire cat with a huge, toothy grin that could vanish into thin air, and a Mad Hatter and a March Hare who were always having a tea party because their clock was stuck at tea time. Alice had funny and strange conversations with these characters. The world here was very different from her home. Animals could talk, riddles didn't have answers, and time didn't behave properly. But Alice, being brave and adventurous, went along with it, eager to explore more. One day, she found herself in the grand court of the Queen of Hearts. The queen loved to play a game using flamingos as mallets and hedgehogs as balls, which Alice found quite tricky. The queen had a strange habit of shouting, "Off with their heads," for the smallest mistakes, which made Alice quite nervous. Suddenly, Alice was accused of stealing the queen's tarts and was put on trial. Alice bravely defended herself. The trial was full of silliness, and while it went on, Alice noticed she was growing bigger again. As she grew, the court was thrown into a funny mess. Amid the chaos, she spotted the white rabbit. Just as she was about to speak, Alice blinked and found herself back on the riverbank, her head resting in the soft grass. It turned out that her grand adventure was all a dream, a very strange and wonderful dream. Rubbing her eyes, Alice stood up, dusted her pretty dress, and looked at the calm river. She could still remember the taste of the drink me potion and eat me cake. She could still feel the soft fur of the white rabbit and the cold, shiny key in her hand. She walked back to her big house, bathed in the warm sunlight. Her own garden, full of bright and beautiful flowers, looked a lot like the garden in Wonderland. What was once an ordinary garden now seemed full of possibilities and magic. As night fell, Alice got ready for bed. She wore her cozy nightgown, climbed into her soft, warm bed, and snuggled under her blanket. She closed her eyes and wished to visit Wonderland in her dreams again. As she drifted off to sleep, she could hear the mumbles of the white rabbit, the laughter of the Mad Hatter, and the purring of the Cheshire Cat. With a smile on her face, Alice let her dreams carry her back to the magical world of Wonderland. From that day forward, Alice was never bored. She looked forward to her nighttime adventures in Wonderland, meeting peculiar creatures and having fun adventures. She loved to see what new surprises awaited her in that magical land each night. So, Alice's story reminds us that even when things seem ordinary and quiet, our imagination can take us to the most wonderful places. All we have to do is close our eyes, let our minds wander, and we might find ourselves in our own Wonderland, ready for our own amazing adventures. And that, dear child, is the end of our tale. Good night, little one. May you have sweet dreams and wake up to a beautiful new day filled with wonderful adventures.